any event, good morning everyone, and welcome back to the Grand Hotel, Malahide, for what is the 6th meeting of the Citizens' Assembly. And I also want to say fáilte, as usual, to people, viewers online and on television. And this morning I also want to say fáilte to the observers, and I hope you benefit from being here, and I genuinely do think you will, fáilte. In any event, today we meet to consider the next topic on our work programme, the challenges and opportunities of an ageing population. The last time we gathered, it was to conclude our work on the topic of the 8th Amendment. I'm working on that report, and we will submit it to the Oireachtas by the end of June, as previously indicated. I must say how heartened I am to see so many familiar faces here this morning, and to feel the energy and collegiality in the room, as I've experienced on previous occasions, I hasten to add. However, on this occasion, before I go any further, I want to take a moment to mark the passing of one of the members of the Assembly, John Connolly, from County Cork. John was a dedicated member who took his role very seriously, and someone who I know had made genuine friends here at the Assembly. He will be sadly missed. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Secretariat, the members and myself to offer sincere condolences to John's family. As a mark of respect to John, I would ask you to stand now and join me in a minute's silence. Yesh Love J. Garawa Anam. Thank you very much. Following the conclusion in April of that very intense phase of our work on the 8th Amendment, I think it was not beyond the realms of possibility that some members would have withdrawn from the Assembly. Indeed, you have already given so generously of your time that you could have been forgiven for deciding to bow out at that stage. However, I'm once again, and I have to use a common expression, bowled over by the sense of civic duty displayed by the members of the Assembly. I'm truly delighted to report that we have had an overwhelmingly positive response from our members, with all but 3 members being in a position to remain on as part of the Assembly for the remaining topics. The level of commitment is a continuous source of inspiration to me, and I thank you all for your continued presence and service to the state. To those new members joining us for the first time today, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you. Thank you for your participation and to wish you well as we begin our work on this important topic. You join us at the beginning of a new and exciting phase of our work, where we will consider topics as varied as climate change, fixed-term parliaments, the manner in which referenda are held, and today's very important topic, the challenges and opportunities of an ageing population. I think it's fair to say that this topic is incredibly broad, wide-ranging, and affects us all in one way or another, and already in one way or another has been the subject of multiple government policy documents, strategies and reviews. I was conscious, therefore, that we should focus our efforts and energy on those areas where we could add real value for advancing policy discourse. In advance of this weekend, I've been extremely fortunate to have had the benefit of a new expert advisory group which I have formed to advise me on this topic in accordance with the Oireachtas resolution. John Gary, whom you'll remember from our previous meetings, Professor of Politics from Queen's University Belfast, remains as one constant member of the expert group, having, as you know, been here on when we were considering the 8th Amendment. And I'm glad John has agreed to stay with us, because I think continuity is very important. Then John is joined on this occasion by the following: Roseanne Kenny, Professor of Medical Gerontology at Trinity College Dublin and Director of the new Mercer's Institute of Successful Ageing, and she's with us today. She is joined also by Eamon O'Shea, Personal Professor in the School of Business and Economics in NUI Galway. He was the inaugural director of the Irish Centre for Social Gerontology at NUI Galway, and you will be hearing from, as I will mention later, you will be hearing from Eamon tomorrow. Amanda Phelan also joins the group. Mandy is co-director of the National Centre for the Protection of Older People in University College Dublin. She was here earlier and she'll be back, and so you'll have an opportunity to meet her. Susan Cliff is also here today. She's the Deputy Chief Inspector of HICWA, and she has, and this is important, senior regulatory responsibility for older people living in residential care. And then finally, we have Patricia Rickard-Clark, who's a solicitor with a very wide range of experience, both past and present, in relation to the law and older people. And just to illustrate that, she's currently a member of the Council of the Hospice Foundation. She's also a member of Think Ahead Project Advisory Group of the Forum on End of Life and the HSE's National Financial Abuse of Older People Working Group. And she was formerly a commissioner of the Law Reform Commission, and she was the lead commissioner with regard to the Commission's very, very valuable work on vulnerable adults on the law. There are members, and Patricia's here as well today. Most of the members, as I say, are here. In fact, as I say, Eamon will be here tomorrow. And I just want to thank them for their the work, and the members, the existing members of the Assembly will remember the epithet I used at every meeting in relation to the help I got from the EAG on the 8th Amendment. Do you remember? Invaluable. And I used the same epithet to describe the assistance I'm getting from this EAG. Now, I have to be a bit frank about this, because when Sharon and I started looking at this topic originally, I actually felt overwhelmed by the breadth of the topic. And fortunately, the group met with the Secretariat on a number of occasions to consider the work programme for this weekend. And first on our order of business was to consider whether a single weekend would be sufficient to allow the topic to receive due consideration. And in considering our options in this regard, I was mindful of the timeline laid down by the Oireachtas for our work. You will recall that the resolution states that the work should be completed within 1 year. This means that all 5 topics in the work programme should be completed by November this year. I was also conscious of the considerable time commitment which has already been made by our members, and therefore any additional time could only be contemplated if absolutely necessary. On reflection and in consultation with the steering group, I concluded that an additional weekend on this topic would be required. I'm confident that this will be to the absolute benefit of the members and ultimately to the quality of the recommendations they will make. And I think we made the right decision on that. So I want now to focus on this weekend's discussion. As evident from the agenda, For this weekend, I've decided that we will focus our attention on considering long-term care and facilitating independent living in Ireland. There are a number of reasons why we've singled out this topic for special attention. Since beginning our consultations, this aspect has been raised most frequently as requiring consideration. It was the view of the expert group that this area of public policy was most in need of attention and action. Attention and action. Significantly, this was also the single biggest issue that came through the submissions process. The submissions process was open from 3rd April to 19th May. Some 120 submissions were received, and these have all been posted on the Assembly's website. Moreover, the Secretariat has prepared a summary of submissions for the members, and this will also go on the website today. It's a very useful document, the summary, and the public will find it useful because it classifies the submissions broadly according to themes, and it divides them into 10 themes in all. So I think both the members of the Assembly and the public will find that summary very useful. As we will hear today, responding to support and care needs of our older population is a complex and challenging topic, and it is safe to say that, in spite of decades of policy reports and recommendations to the government, much more work is required to adequately facilitate independent living in Ireland. However, another reason why I selected this issue was that it will allow us to consider the topic of ageing in a wider sense. All else being equal and all going well, growing old is something that faces all of us. But the meaning of ageing is different for different people. For some, it will mean retirement and finally having the time to pursue their hobbies and passions. For others, it will mean continuing with work. For some, it will mean spending more time with friends and family. In some cases, older people will spend time caring for family members. For others, they themselves will be cared for by other family members. For some, aging can mean an opportunity to spend more time in the community, engaging socially, and developing new friendship. For others, aging can mean isolation and loneliness, and that is particularly so in rural areas. Each of these aspects of a person's life can be either inhibited or enhanced by where they're living. When we age, just like at other times in our lives, our needs are multifaceted, and that's really what makes this topic so broad. Long-term care is not solely a health or social care matter. It is about much more than that. And just because someone is old does not mean that they do not have a contribution to make, something to say, or a role to play. And so I would encourage you, the members, today to open your minds and consider the material we're going to discuss today in the broadest possible way. Do not let yourself be constrained by focusing in a narrow sense on this issue. Place yourselves in the shoes of an older person, or consider how you want to live your life as an older person and apply that thinking to the deliberations. In one of our submissions, it was suggested that this topic should be renamed, and I quote, "How we support older people to respond to the challenges and opportunities of their current state of development." Think about that. It seems to me to be a very thought-provoking prism through which to look at today's proceedings. Tomorrow, we hear from the citizens directly, from you, the citizens directly, on what other aspects of this topic we would like to consider at the July meeting. Once again, we must recall that this is an exercise in deliberative democracy, and so the views of the members must shape the work programme. We will now begin this session by hearing from two speakers who will provide us with a statistical and evidence-based overview of the shape and structure of Ireland's ageing population and what it is like to grow old in Ireland. We will hear first from Deirdre Cullen, Senior statistician with the Central Statistics Office with responsibility for the census. And we will then hear from Dr. Dermot O'Shea, a consultant physician in geriatric medicine in St Vincent's Hospital and clinical lead for the National Clinical Programme for Older People. So we're going to have a very interesting session. And those of you who have read the papers will know that. And just lest I forget to say it, all of the papers being delivered by the speakers and the slides will go up on the website today. So they are of assistance not only to us but to the general public. So to get the show on the road, as they say, I will ask Deirdre to come to the podium and tell us all about the statistics in relation to the elderly.